A third Mississippi cop gang member of the Goon Squad has been sentenced only 17 and a half years. That seems way too lenient for him being involved in the torture of two people. Uh, they all should be getting basically life in prison for torturing people, being cops. If you're a cop and you break the law, you should get double the time that a regular person would get for doing the same thing.
A third former Mississippi officer has been sentenced to prison for torturing two black men last year. A judge sentenced Daniel Opdyke to 17 and a half years behind bars earlier today.
Two of the other members of the so-called Goon Squad received similar sentences yesterday for the racially motivated attack in which they broke into a home without a warrant and tortured the two men who were staying with a white woman. 3 more ex-officers are expected to be sentenced this week.
And people want to say that there aren't racist cops. You had 6 people torture 2 black people. Didn't like the fact that they were spending some time with a white woman.
Our own CBS News national correspondent Errol Barnett is following the story for us from Jackson, Mississippi. Errol, this is so bleak, so horrific. We understand that one of the victims had to walk out of court today. What was that about?
Hey there, Meg and Lana. That's right. It was another emotional day in this federal courthouse. Behind me, you're seeing the defense team for one of the officers who testified today, Daniel Opdyke. The judge ultimately sentencing him to 17 and a half years behind bars for his role as part of this so-called goon squad of police officers who were willing to use excessive force, in this case, an off-the-books, according to the government operation, in which they targeted Eddie Parker and Michael Jenkins.
Well, this is more than excessive force. This is torture. Uh, all these people should be in prison for the rest of their lives for torturing a person, 2 people. Oh, and yeah, and they were doing it off the books operation. Yeah, they didn't want their department head to know that they were planning on torturing people. I mean, what would have happened if they decided to kill them and, like, bury the body somewhere? Uh, they probably could have gotten away with it if they wanted to. I mean, how many times have cops murdered people and gotten away with it?
Because they got a tip that these black men were in the house of a white woman. That's it. The area this took place is predominantly white as far as Rankin County here in Mississippi. And we heard in testimony today from the government that these men wanted to intimidate the black men so they wouldn't come back to this side of the river. The Pearl River separates those two.
Okay, so they didn't want to kill them. Could have if they wanted to. I mean, there are definitely cops that do plan on murdering people they don't like, and they do, and I've gotten away with it. I mean, like, what? There was a uh, there was a cop who was sentenced to prison for the rape and murder of a 16-year-old. I mean, let's not pretend here that cops don't enjoy murdering people.
Demographics in this part of the country. But what we also heard from Daniel Opdyke was an impassioned apology. He was tearful. He said he continues to have nightmares from what he did. He said he was a coward for not stepping up for these men. He said,
Wow. Oh, boo-hoo me. I got PTSD from torturing people. I'm the victim. Like, dude, nobody cares. If you have nightmares about your actions, you deserve to suffer for what you did. And yeah, you truly are a coward. If you actually didn't want to do this, why did you join? Uh, he's trying to make it seem like he had very little involvement in this.
said he hopes his sentence brings some sort of closure for the victims. But for Eddie Parker, who was just yesterday accepting the apology of Hunter Elwood, the first officer sentenced to 20 years, it was too much for him. He told me because his aunt, who was sitting next to him, was too emotional. They do not buy the tears. They do not accept the excuses because according to Eddie, the victim, each men took turns abusing them. The government also said that Mr. Opdyke took a kitchen instrument and inserted it into the men. So they were sexually abused. They were
Wow. And he only got 17 and a half years, and he raped a dude. That's messed up. Like, come on. That cop should have gotten 20, 40, 60 years. All these cops should be getting uh, you know, max jail time. It is outlandish that they're getting off light. If this was any other people, there would definitely be more extreme jail time.
were terrorized. They were assaulted. And for the community here, it's significant. They're seeing now a third officer sentenced to an extensive prison sentence for his role. And as you mentioned, 3 other officers are to be sentenced as well.
It's really hard.
Honestly, the entire police department needs to be investigated, and pretty much every single cop needs to be fired. And if they want to work there again, they gotta go through another investigation and show that they're actually a good cop. Um, it is wild how these cops were able to get away with so much of their abuses, because this isn't the first time that they've assaulted and tortured people. This group of cops are known for assaulting black people.
To listen to those details. Errol, the sheriff who was not involved in the torture is now facing calls to resign. How likely is that?
It's a great question, and outside the courthouse is what the legal team representing the 2 men continue to say. In fact, just yesterday I posed a question because Brian, the sheriff of Rankin County, Brian Bailey, is still in his position, and he oversaw these men. Here's a question I asked to the gentleman's legal team yesterday about that.
The struggle for justice will always continue as long as Brian Bailey insists that he's going to remain the sheriff. But I'm sure that somebody's going to do something about it. I'm sure that the Rankin County supervisor.
Yeah, a police department is going to constantly have bad cops, and the department, if those oversee those departments, the sheriffs or the chief of police or whoever, uh, does nothing when their cops do something. If they encourage and support that kind of behavior, it, the only thing that's going to happen is other cops are going to fill the position and start torturing and murdering black people again.
And my question to them was, what do you say to people of color in this part of the country who wonder if they're safe? That remains a lingering question. They've filed a $400 million civil lawsuit against him and the county in order to get him to be removed. But Mr. Bailey's legal team says that lawsuit should be dismissed because as sheriff, he is not legally responsible for the actions of his officers. So that fight will continue to take place.
Well, that's something should be changed. If he's like the overseer of like the police department or departments, yeah, he's fault for what is going on. It is messed up what these cops did, and I mean, how often, honestly, do cops get away with their crimes because they have so many other cops to protect them? It is just